Hello, everybody. I'm Alexei Kravrov, the founder and organizer of Bay Area AI, a meetup which was founded as an NLP meetup 10 years ago and then went through data science, machine learning, deep learning, waves, and now, of course, AI, and now it's all LLMs. And we're back after the pandemic hiatus. We started small last fall, and we're coming back and forth. We had our first full meetup with Josh Tobin, founder and CEO of Gantry, a startup which is doing test-driven developments of LLMs, and he gave a talk about test-driven development of LLMs, which will be released separately. So we just wanted to meet Josh and ask him questions about, how he come to do this and what's really making it fun. So thank you for sitting down with us, Josh.
Thanks to be here.
So we met at the LLM Bootcamp, which was huge, global success. Can you tell us a little bit, how do you guys start this and, how you gather such an amazing audience?
Yeah, so it kind of, go back in time to 2017, early 2018, world was a different place. LLMs were just a paper, just a twinkle in the eye of some researchers who had this idea of scaling things up. But AI was not, and a lot of people were really excited about AI back then. And in particular, they were really excited about deep learning.
Mm-hmm.
So I, at the time, was working on my PhD, and I was kind of simultaneously working at OpenAI, and had realized that, a frustrating thing about that stage was that, at some point, the hard part for us at OpenAI stopped being research. And it started being everything else around that. How do we organize people to work on these projects together? How do we build infrastructure? How do we scale it up? How do we test our models? And so that insight led to co-creating this class with my advisor at the time at Berkeley and one of our other friends who was running an AI startup. And really the inception of it was just, we had wanted to do some teaching over the summer. We'd gotten approached by a company to teach a class for them. We talked about the curriculum that we want to teach, and we realized we wanted to teach stuff that was really different than what most other people were teaching. And it was focused not on how to train models, but actually on how to build products with models.
Mm-hmm.
And so, long story short, rather than teaching that class for that one company, we decided, it would be more impactful if we made it into a boot camp. We ran that, and it was way more successful than we anticipated. And the community has kind of grown over time ever since then.
How come it became so international? People flew from Netherlands, from Brazil, those really global showing, right? How did this happen?
I don't know. I think, I think we historically, we always do a really good job of, putting our content online for free after we teach the classes.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's become over time just kind of this repository of stuff that, we put a lot of effort and a lot of thinking into. And so a lot of people, find it valuable, and it's just online for free. And so I think, there's, maybe not a lot of university courses or in-person classes in most of the world. And so folks gravitate to these free classes. But then when they see that they're having an event, they, want to come and follow the community.
Yeah, I think that's a hallmark, right? When people fly from around the world, and a lot of them I talk to, they basically say I'm doing software engineering job in a startup. I want to get into machine learning. So they see your course as a pivot to get into the space, right? And I think it's a ground floor of LLM. So you give a lot of people a new chance in this new era. So I think this is awesome. Can you tell me a little bit about there are three guys who do the LLM, and like three musketeers. You all have different character, right? And can you tell me how did you guys click, right? You work together as a team.
Yeah. It was all sort of circumstantial, and it just kind of ended up working out really well. Sergey and I met to start working together on this first class. Pieter, my advisor, who previously helped out a lot with the class, and these days is more of an advisor. Sort of brought us together, and we just we found that we worked really well together. And then fast forward a couple of years, we were both running other companies, but we wanted to continue this community, and we met Charles, who at the time was working at Weights and Biases, teaching classes there.
Mm-hmm.
We watched some of his lectures, and we were like, this guy's really good. He's really great educator.
And he's really easy to spot.
What's that?
He's really easy to spot.
Well, easy to spot, yeah. And so we approached him to chat, and it turned out that he was interested in working together, and we started teaching classes together from there.
Well, this is great. Yeah, I think each of you has very specific contribution to this, right? And I think This is great. I think it's a great team. Can you talk a little bit about, you did your PhD at Berkeley, right? You guys work there, and so I collaborate with a lot of open source folks from AMP Lab and Rise Lab and now Skylab. So Berkeley has this culture. How did that affect this?
Yeah, I think from the beginning we were running this as a side business. We and like part of the original sort of motivation for doing this was to kind of have this, this side business that we could work on and make some money from. But because of the connection to Berkeley, it was always really, really important, especially to Pieter, but then also to the rest of us to, not paywall this content forever, but to, make sure that we're breaking even on it and then eventually just open it up so that it can impact more people.
Another thing which really impressed me is that you guys now have, startups, like you're a startup founder, right? Like startup founders generally don't have time to answer emails, right? And so you are running education events and talks and right? Like you're really kind of focusing. So how do you manage to do that? And, why do you consider this important, right? This educational component?
Yeah. Well, the how do I do that? Well, I only write content about stuff that I'm already thinking about and already really care about. And the way that I develop content often leads to ideas that get incorporated into our product or reflect things that we're building into our product anyway. So there's a ton of overlap. And the reason why I think it's important is because, we're kind of at, we're at an inflection point of adoption of a new technology. And this technology has the potential to have massive amount of impact, right? It's like, as impactful as, whatever metaphor you want to choose, as impactful as the internet, as impactful as software itself, or maybe the most important technology that humans have ever invented, depending on how far this scaling curve goes. But in order for this technology to have that impact, it's not just going to be models themselves that are going to drive that. It's also going to be how we turn those models, which are this raw technology that's really capable, how we craft those into the actual products that have an impact on the world. And I think in order for that to happen, there are new technologies that need to exist. And so that's what I'm working on. That's what we're working on at Gantry. But I don't think building technology is enough because we also need people to understand how to use this technology to solve problems. And, if you think back at the history of software, it wasn't just tools that made software successful. It was also the development of, Agile and, practices around how we can work as organizations to develop software. And so I really think, for me, the mission is accelerating the impact of artificial intelligence on the world and, seeing AI become part of all the products that we interact with on a day-to-day basis, much like software is today. And Gantry and the full stack are the two thrusts that I'm working on to help achieve that.
This is great. I really appreciate that because you educate a bunch of engineers, and that's kind of probably my last question is, so, I run a bunch of engineer meetups. We have tens of thousands of engineers, right, who do backend, Java, enterprise, Spark, big data pipelines, streaming, React for the UX and so forth, right? So we have a whole class of engineers who are now kind of wondering, right, what's going to happen to them. And one of my friends who was at Google, she said that very interestingly, like if you think that AI is going to get rid of software engineers, it's like saying about magic is going to get rid of magicians, right? So which kind of, right, which it's futile, but you're in the midst of this, you build a software engineering product with engineers, right? What do you think about this, and what's your advice to software engineers who came today, who want to learn about this and pivot into this? Like, what's your advice, how to be a software engineer in the age of LLMs?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, maybe in the future, AI is going to be so good at doing everything that humans do that there won't be much of a role for us. Maybe, but in the short term, which is all we can really control, I think people should think about this as a really capable tool, and it might, and so, right now, like, I think most software engineers will be better software engineers if they learn how to use LLMs. Like when I write code, especially when I write code in, something like JavaScript that I don't really, use very often or not understand that well, I rely a lot on Copilot and GPT-4 and stuff like that to help me. In the medium term, the capabilities of these like AI-driven programming systems might increase very rapidly. There's a very high chance of that. And so the tool might become so capable that it might feel like it's replacing a lot of the parts that software engineers do in their day-to-day jobs. But what it's not going to do is it's not going, at least not, until we get to this point of being close to AGI, it's not going to make decisions about what we should build.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to make judgments about what is, what do people care about when they interact with this software. And it's not going to be able to balance like all of the constraints and trade-offs that only come from like conversations with other people and a deep understanding of the problem that you're trying to solve. And so, you can think of it as like as a software engineer, ultimately your job is to like build things that people use and that they get value from. And just because just because a better tool is invented, like if a better tool is invented to build those things, then it's your job to figure out how to use it. And if you do that, then it's not going to replace you, at least until it replaces everything.
Sounds great. And of course, like traditional question is like, what's next for Gantry? I saw your product, which is really, really cool. Like it looks like a lab which people would actually use to do this, TDD, which is great engineering concept. So what's next? Like, do you want to diversify in different areas? Like what are a physicist or doctor? Do I need like special tools? Or are you going to be, say, general TDD tool? Any ideas kind of where it's going?
Yeah, I mean, folks are just going to have to wait and see. We're not quite ready to talk publicly about that yet.
Sounds good. Thank you very much, Josh. We'll be following you and looking forward to news from Gantry.
Thanks so much.